Okay, well, good evening, boys. Well, what do you say? My name is Mase, and it's just so glad to be here. I want to say thank you to the team that organized this. My job is easy, just come and just share. But what makes this happen is the guys that you have seen standing up and through his space. So I just want to say thank you. Can we put our hands together for the boys? I also want to say thank you to Nick for allowing this space for us to be here and to be vulnerable, and we talk about topics that we don't normally hear in everyday conversation. I also wanted to acknowledge the owner of the land that we're, the space right here, I think is the Young Gamp people. I want to thank them for allowing us to be in this space. And again, one more thing is want to say thank you to every single one of you. I know that you have better things to do tonight, but you're here just to, to learn more. I'm not here just to give to you. I'm also here to take from you, because I can see some men that are older than me that are here that have been through a lot of experiences, especially the topic tonight about depression. So that's why I like about this space. It's not me only giving it to you, but I'm going to learn from you. So again, you're not here just to hear from me, but we're going to learn from each other. Is that okay? The topic tonight is going to be touchy for some of you, okay? And sometimes we focus on the negative part of the topic instead of the positive side. Now, depression, like tonight, the topic is depression. Now, the whole theme for this year is looking at, we did the first workshop, we did the domestic violence. So the theme for the whole year is domestic violence. And so after domestic violence, the first workshop, we done it, I think of February, right? So that was the first one. And then after February, we had 2 follow-up workshops from the first one. So the first follow-up workshop was one particular area of domestic violence that we don't really hear about is emotional abuse. Okay, so that was the first workshop. The second one, the second follow-up workshop was understanding the root causes of violence or abuse. But tonight, the topic tonight is depression, understanding depression. Now, if you just click one more time. After depression, on the 12th of July, we're going to have a follow-up from this program. So the follow-up topic will be healing from addictions, because addiction and depression, they go in hand, okay? A lot of us, we numb depression through our addiction. So that's what we're going to be talking about. How do we heal? Not only just talk about addictions, but how can we heal from addictions, okay? And then the second workshop, the follow-up workshop, is on the 26th of July. We're going to be talking about how do you switch your brain. Switching the brain, okay? Because depression affects the mental state, okay? So that's what we're going to be talking on the 27th or the 26th. So don't miss those dates. If you can put it on your calendar, or you can take a picture, and hopefully to see you there. Tonight, depression. Now, the big question is, how massive is depression today? What are your thoughts? Because we always hear about depression, right? It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what background you come from. You always hear this word depression. And then we say to ourselves, well, we could have done something earlier. Depression is like an enemy. So in order for you and I to win the battle against this enemy, we must understand the enemy itself. Is that correct? Who's a boxer here? I know I'm looking at one of them. Before you get into the ring, you got to study your enemy, right? You got to know their strength and their weakness. It's the same with depression, because we need to understand depression first in order for you and I to fight depression. So that's why tonight is important. Now, how massive is depression? Depression is the #1 cause of disability, no matter where you come from. A lot of men, most men will miss work or miss school because of this illness more than any other illness. So if you have a headache, you have to soldier on to work. Is that right? If you get the flu or the cough, now because we have COVID, you got to stay home. But back then, before COVID came, if it's a cough, flu, you just soldier on to work. But depression, most people, most men will miss going to work because of depression. Now, I'm not saying all of them, I'm just saying most of them, okay? Most of them. Now, the first question I want to ask you now tonight, now, this is a conversation, okay? I want to give you two, if you look at, if you can just turn around to the person next to you, or maybe groups of 3 or 4. The first question I'm going to ask you now is, what is your view of depression? What is your understanding of depression? Okay? So I'm going to give you just 2 minutes, okay, to get into groups of 3 or 4, and then we can get this conversation started. Okay, starting now. What is depression to you? There's something that you mentioned about feelings and emotions. So all your answers are spot on. So I'm going to add to that. So depression to me is a mood disorder defined by thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Okay, and Kiala mentioned this earlier on his presentation on root causes. So depression, let me say it again. Depression is a mood disorder defined by thoughts, feelings, and then behaviors. That's why it's so difficult to identify depression, is because sometimes, because you cannot read my thoughts, is that right? I can't read yours. You can't read my emotions and my feelings. Can you read my actions? Yes. You can read my actions, right? But you can't read my thoughts and feelings. That's why, because men, we deal more of the physical. With women, they deal more with the emotions and feelings, right? So that's why for us, that's why men have a high risk of going through depression, is because we're good at these two. We like to hide our thoughts because it's invisible, you can't see it. Because of thoughts and feelings. So therefore, and because we are men, we a wrong view of what a man is, so therefore we put on the face to cover up the thoughts and the feelings of depression. So again, so my view of depression, adding to what you said, is a mood disorder defined by thoughts, feelings, and behavior. I'm going to come back to that. Now, there are 9 symptoms to recognize depression. So how many? 9. There are 9 symptoms to recognize depression. Now, you don't have to have all 9 to have depression, okay? All you need is 5 from that 9. Are you following what I'm saying? So 5 from the 9. You don't really have to have all 9, but it's 5 of them to recognize that you have depression. Now, number 1, I'm going to quickly go through it. Number 1, if you can bring it up. So go again. Number 1 is deep sadness or emptiness. Okay, have you ever heard that before? Deep sadness or emptiness. This is when a person is happy one day, but then sad another, but then sad the majority for the time for 2 weeks. That will qualify you for symptom number 1. Okay, let me explain that again. Number 1 is deep sadness or emptiness. This is when you're happy one day and then you're sad another, but sad the majority of the time for 2 weeks. That's symptom number 1. Number 2 is what we call apathy. So apathy is lack of interest. Is it lack of interest? Yeah, lack of interest. This is when a person gets up in the morning, okay, but is not happy about the day. Have you ever experienced that before? You get up in the morning, but you're not really happy about the day. You go to work, not because you're excited to go to work, but you're going to work. The reason why you go to work is because your job is your responsibility as a man to provide food on the table. Is that right? But really, you're not happy about the day. You just get up, but you're not happy about the day. That's symptom number 2. Now, number 3 is what we call weight or appetite changes. Weight or appetite changes. Now, the common one between the two is the weight gain. The reason why we see Australians and New Zealanders gain so much weight is because of the depression going higher. Most people medicate their depression with sugary food. Food that has so much sugar. Okay, most people medicate their depression with food, especially food with a lot of sugar on it. Okay, so that will qualify you for symptom number 3. Now, number 4 is agitation. This is when this is when the person is more irritable, or let's say they get angry easily. Okay, you snap. You never used to be, but lately you're like, your wife says something or your kids say something, you're like, you get angry easily, but you never used to be before. Now, for people that has this symptom number 4, most of these people don't realize this is happening to them. Okay? Most people, it's like a blind spot. Most people don't see that this is happening to them. That's why you need to start asking the question, am I irritable? You need to ask that question to your wife or to your daughters or to your son, because they see it more than yourself. Okay, that's symptom number 4. Number 5. Number 5 is what we do, sleep, what's the word? Disturbances. So it can go either way. Either you lack of sleep or sleeping too much. Lack of sleep or sleeping too much. There is a health retreat in America. It's called WEMA. And so they take people in that deal with depression. And some of them, they sleep up to 18 to 19 hours a day. This is the truth because of depression. They can't stay up 18 to 19 hours a day. Now, my sister, I have a sister here that lives in Redcliffe. She has major depression. She will sleep from 9 in the morning all the way to 10 at night. And she gets up only for half an hour, go back to sleep again. Okay? Major depression. And we're dealing with it now. So yeah, so this is the person. Now the most common sleep disturbance is the one that early morning awakening. You know, when a person goes to sleep, but then get up early hours of the morning and can't go sleep again. So roughly you're looking about 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, or 3 in the morning. This is the time you get up and then it's difficult for you to go back to sleep, roughly. So the deeper the depression is in your life, the earlier you get up in the morning, roughly about 1, 2, 3, and you can't go to sleep. Have you ever experienced that before? Yeah. That's symptom number 5. Number 6 is what we call lack of what? Concentration. This is when a person reads a book, and once it gets down to the bottom, can't remember what they read in the top of the page. Okay, they lose it straight away. They're so fast. Okay, they read a page, they read a book, but when they get down to the bottom of that page, they can't remember what they read earlier. That will qualify you for symptom number 6. Number 7, feelings of worthlessness. This is when a person feels like I'm not good enough. Now, this is a massive lie that we put in our own head. I'm not good enough. I am not strong enough. I can't measure up. I can't be like this person. I can't be this. I'm useless. I'm a failure. Okay? And when you feel like that, remember, for 2 weeks, that will qualify you for symptom number 7. Number 8 is morbid thoughts. That means you have thought of suicide every week, every day. You have thought of suicide. Not only you have thought of suicide, but you're obsessed with symbols of death. Okay, that's symptom number 8. Number 9, fatigue. This is when you have no energy at all. You may get up in the morning, but you run out of energies too quick. Have you been there before? I have. That's the 9. You've got 9 symptoms. Now remember, you don't have to have all 9 of them to have depression. All you need is how many?
5.
Any 5 of the 9. Now when I look at that list, when I first saw it, I had all 9 of them. I have all 9 of them. So 5 from the 9, that's what they call major depression. 2 from the 9, that's minor depression. 1 from the 9, that is normal. You just had a bad day. Okay? That you can deal with. You just had a bad day. But if you have 9, now, brothers, don't ignore the signals. For far too long, we always hear about, we could have done something about someone that already had suicide or was gone or died from depression. Don't ignore the signals. If this is you, do something about it. There's a lot of us here that we can sit down and talk to you one-on-one. Maybe maybe it's uncomfortable for you to talk to other groups out there, but you have someone that you can spark that conversation with. Don't ignore the signal. You might have to ask your wife, your brother, your sons, your daughter, do I get tired easily? Do I get angry easily? Do I get fatigued or whatever? You have to ask these questions, because it's not enough for us to come here once in 3 months and then talk about this and we go home. What do we do about it? We have to spark the conversation. Okay. Now the question I'm going to ask you now, okay, is that's how important it is for us to understand depression, because the root cause of suicide is depression. We can't just talk about suicide without getting to the root cause of suicide, which is depression. So in order for us to do something and save many lives, because one person can't save all of them. But if we can work together as a team, as men, to our sons, to our brothers, to our aunt or in our family, to pop this question up and help them to understand what is depression. Because if we can avoid suicide from dealing with the root cause of suicide, which is depression, you can imagine how many lives that we were able to reach. Okay. Now, this is some of the effects. Number one is that we have increase of the risk of death, suicide. Number two, the risk of stroke. Number three, the risk of heart attack. Can you see how depression affects the heart? Not only your family, but your mental, your whole body. Okay. Number four is the risk of cancer. Number five, divorce. Now here's a massive one. How many of you are married here? Now here's a massive one. If you don't deal with depression, you may find another woman. And when you get together with that new woman, what happened? The first 6 months are all like, it's a honeymoon state, right? The nice guy, taking them out for dinner. But if you don't deal with depression, it's going to come back and hunt you down. And so therefore, that new relationship now, we're always going to blame that person. It's your fault, because we're not dealing with depression. So therefore, we move from that relationship, blaming that person, and go to find another relationship. And guess what happened? What's happening to depression? It's still there, right? So therefore, because of that, it's active in our life. Because we can't deal with depression, we take it out on someone else. And so therefore, after that, we blame that person. I stuff you. I want to move it to this person. Can you see now? So you go from relationship. Why? Because we're not dealing with depression. It destroys so many families. Next one is finance. Thousands of money, family being destroyed, finance being destroyed because of depression. Next one is what we had, the risk of death from suicide. Okay, we can touch on that. Okay, now what do we do if you have a headache? If you have a sore head, what do we do? Straight away, okay, man, let's go painkillers, huh? The question, does it work? Sometimes. For how long? It works, but it doesn't last longer, huh? Okay, only takes what? Maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, and after that, what happened? You take another one. Go again. Now, and that's the same with depression. That's what we normally do with depression. We normally deal with the symptoms, but not reason from the cause to effect. That's why all these workshops is based around finding the root cause. Okay, I love when I was in Thailand, and I love how the Asians do their medicine, because if you go to them and say, look, I have a sore head, they don't give you any painkillers. They will start touching your body, touch your because they're trying to get to the root cause of the problem before they give you medication. But what about us here in Australia? What do they do? Okay, we'll see you next week. And if we don't have the awareness of that, guess what happens? We just go along. Okay, so here's the thing, depression. Now, if you go on the next one slide, depression. Now, let's talk about depression. One of the symptoms of depression, we know that from what we heard before, is weight, gaining weight. Okay, and how do we gain weight? We eat food, right? What kind of food? Sugary food. Click on that. Now, one more time. Where's the problem here? I don't see any problem. I don't see it. That's the first thing I said. I don't see a problem. Because I showed my wife, because I always eat. Okay, I always eat. The middle of the night, she's asleep, and I'm like sneaking. Kiala knows this. and my wife said, "What are you doing now? What are you doing?" So when I was showing this to this, she's like, "So what's the problem?" I'm like, "Nothing." I'm a man, okay? But what's the problem here? What's the problem here? The picture. What is the problem?
Healthy food.
That's exactly what I said. Straight away as men, because we put on weight, we think is what? Food. But the main problem is this. There is a statement, there's a book that it's called Mind, Character, Personality. And it says this statement. It says, 95 of disease that happen to men is the things that we put in our head. It's the thought life, not even food. 95% of what happened to you in your life, it doesn't come from food. It comes from the things that you put in your own head. Depression. The problem here is depression. But what we do is, men, because we put on weight, let's hit the gym, let's eat right, and guess what happened? You may enter, now don't get me wrong, you may lose the weight, but it's still there, because depression, it doesn't mean depression, either you gain weight or you lose weight, but you don't feel like eating. Can you see the difference, right? Depression can do things on putting on weight. Either you eat too much, or you eat less, you lose the weight, but you don't feel like eating. So what we do, we give up all this food, right? So let's say we enter into 14 days, challenge 14 days of meal replacement. So therefore, we think we've replaced that meal and put in a healthy meal. What happened after 14 days? You may go back to the old food, or you might find another addiction to replace the old addiction. So therefore, we go from, let's say this is so let's say this is addiction of food, right? So we take that addiction of eating bad food, and you're like, okay, let's find another addiction. Addiction could be like, I don't know, pornography, or could be, overtime at work. You see, that's why it's so important. Don't miss the 12th of July. We're going to talk about healing from addictions. Okay, you need to be here. Okay, next one. Now, go again. Depression. Go again. One more time. So keep going. So can you see now? So we just go from addiction. But really, the problem is what? We need to deal with depression. You deal with depression, then all the above will just start fading away. That's why a lot of people, they have trouble. Like, I don't want to smoke no more. I just don't want to smoke. There's a reason why you smoke. Not because you don't get up in the morning and say, oh, I'll make a choice that I'm going to smoke. No, there's a reason why we smoke, we drink, or whatever it is. And the first thing that we do, we think, you know what? I'm going to try my best today not to drink. But guess what happened? If you don't deal with the root cause of why we smoke or why we do certain things, it's still active, it's still going to come back to you, and you might turn to a different addiction. Does that make sense? Now, the question I'm going to ask you tonight is there hope for depression? Is there hope for depression? The answer is yes, but it's not medication. Now, before I say this, I am not a doctor, and I don't claim to be. And I support all my local doctors here in Logan. It is not my job to tell you to come off your medication. If you're taking medication for depression, no, it's not my job. You have to refer back to your doctors. They will tell you when to come off. But what I'm doing tonight, I'm just going to share with you the truth of depression, especially when it comes to medication. Here's the thing. There is hope for depression, but medication is not one of them. It's not the solution. Because you see, depression is not an illness. It's not a disease. Like cancer. Is cancer a disease? We take medication for cancer, right? Or if you have diabetes, that's a disease. But you see, we treat depression like a disease or an illness. It's not a disease. See, depression is telling you something that is not right, something is not going right in your life. That's what depression is. So don't feel like when I'm depressed, oh man, go straight to the doctors, get me medication. Okay? Because here's the thing, medication only numbs the feelings and emotions, but it doesn't help us to make better choices. Can I say that again? Medication only numbs the feeling and emotions, but it doesn't help you to make better choices. Here's the thing. The first step for you to heal from depression, you got to be able to feel. Gela mentioned this the last workshop. In order for you to deal with depression, the number one step, you got to be able to feel. Because if you can't feel, you cannot deal with depression. But you see what medication does? It numbs the what? So if your feelings are numb, guess what happens? You can't deal with depression because you're not thinking right. Are you following what I'm saying? You're not thinking right. You got to be able to think straight. You got to be able to be aware of your own feelings and emotion in order for you to deal with depression. But the more we medicate ourselves with medicine and stuff like that, guess what happens? It numbs the feeling, so therefore it's impossible for you to deal with depression. But there is a solution. The solution is based upon the causes that is active in that person's life. Okay? Now, what are the solutions? Before we dive into that, what are the root causes? Because in order for you and I to heal from depression, we need to understand the root causes. Now, just quickly in your groups, okay, groups of 3 or 4, same groups, just quickly ask that question. Just talk about it. What are the root causes of depression to you? What do you think? Okay, give you 1 minute.
I'll remember.
And what was the other one that someone shared? Shame. Shame. That's a massive topic. Shame. Well, hopefully for the next event, we're going to be talking about shame alone, because it's a massive topic to expand. Now, here's some of the causes I'm going to add to your list. Okay. Number 1 is genetics. Okay. Now, this is when you have a family like mom and dad or the generation before you suffer with or struggle with depression. Okay. And so there is a 50% that you might get depression. Now, it doesn't mean just because of genetics, it doesn't mean that you will have depression. Now, have you ever heard people saying, because your father had diabetes, you will have diabetes, right? Your mother went through heart disease, that you might have, right? But just because the generation before us went through that, it doesn't mean that you will have depression. Are you following what I'm saying? That's why I say you might have 50%, not 100%, 50% you might. So genetics, okay? Number 2, the root cause of that is how we raise. The things that we've been through in our childhood experience. Some of us are being physical abused, verbally abused, emotional abuse, sexually abused, spiritual abuse from churches. Okay, that's another thing. Okay, that's a massive one. Spiritual abuse is a massive one. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, another root cause is lifestyle. If you're not active, I tell you, if you're not active, if your body's not active, guess what happens? Your body will shut down, and that leads to emptiness and depression. Okay, we have to get active. I find that because as men, we all work, right? We go to work, we deal with a lot of things at work. And then we come home, who have kids? Who has kids? How many kids? 2? Afi? 4? 3. So not only are you dealing with stuff at work, 6. Who's got 11? My man, my. Just one. And that's what I'm saying, because you deal with at work, and then you got to go home and deal with every single child. Because every child, if you have 6, they all have different emotions and feelings. You see what I'm saying? So we're working out there. And then not only that, then you got to deal with your wife. Do you have a wife? How many wives? 1? Please stick with 1 wife, okay? I'm trying to keep up with 1, okay? And then you got to deal with her emotions. But on top of that, you got to deal with your own stuff that you're going through. You see what I'm saying? So that's why we have to get active in our lifestyle. You have to find time. Don't be afraid to say no. If people ask you to do this, don't feel like, oh, because he did this for me, I'm going to do a favor for him. No, that's a lie. We should not be doing favor for favor. You should be doing something for someone because you really want to do something for that person. Not because you feel like, oh, because he paid me this, I'm going to do something for free for this person. You're killing yourself. Just be honest. You have to be, that's what I'm saying, lifestyle. So say no and say, look, I'm dealing with, this is my time, this is my week, I'm going to say no. Because you need to work on your physical, your mentally, your social, and your spiritual. Okay, next one. Number 4, addictions. This is a massive one. That's why we have a workshop coming up just for that, addictions. Next one. Okay, food. Now, I know islanders, okay, or anyone, we love our food. When I was going back, I think, 12 years, I didn't know that I was diagnosed with major depression. I didn't see it. But what didn't help me was eating any kind of food. Now, as a Samoan, I'm a Samoan, I eat anything. Anything. Seafood, meat, anything. But 12 years ago, I changed the way I eat. Not a diet, but a lifestyle. Can you see the difference? There's a difference between lifestyle and diet. Diet is just something that you go for 6 months. Okay, sweet, celebrate, let's eat now. Let's eat real food, right? It's a lifestyle. When I changed my lifestyle with eating, I was thinking straight. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm around with a toxic world, right? We can't hide from a toxic world. You go to work, someone's going to swear at you. You go on the driveway, someone is going to cut you off. I just had one this morning. But here's the thing. Food will help you a massive way with your thinking and the way you do things mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and socially. You got to change the way we eat. Now, I'm not going to force anything upon you. This is what works for me. Now, do I still have problems? Yes. I'm not perfect. But I can cope with stuff now coming in, because every day we deal with people swearing at you, cut you off. We can't change the circumstances that happens to us, but we can change the way we react to it. Can you see the difference? We can't change what people's going to do to you, but you can change how you react to that situation. How? One of them is changing the way we eat. Okay. Now, next one is number 6, toxic hits. So this is, the stuff that we fill our minds with, negative stuff that we fill our mind with. Okay. Anyone, are we going to add this to the list? Any thoughts on this? Boys, that's it for me tonight. So hopefully you've learned something tonight, and I've learned a lot from you. So thank you. Thank you for sharing with me. I can go home now and apply those answers or those solutions in my own life. Again, from the Hisspace team, thank you for joining us tonight, and hope to see you soon.